Welcome! E aí, galera, beleza? Bem-vindo à nossa comunidade.
Welcome to our community.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It is OGC here today. We have an amazing interview. I've wanted to do this for so long. Can finally do it. We have the one, the only StrappedCorn with us today to answer all sorts of questions ranging from host management to unique play styles and so much more. So before I introduce StrappedCorn, I do want to say that StrappedCorn is probably one of my favorite people. When I first moved to Blood Moon, there were actually people that were considering chasing me all around, and I think out of anybody, he's been beyond beyond supportive of me in the game, outside of the game, but advocating for me in the game. So for that, I will always owe that to StrappedCorn, and I have immense respect for him. But we have him here today to answer some questions. So hello, StrappedCorn. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. How are you?
I am doing awesome. I am doing awesome. And just so people at home know, what's your core power like, and where are you in the tower, or where do you usually finish in the tower?
So right now I am about 2900 core, and in the tower, I want to say I finished about 3600 some. I finished top 10 in our server, or top 15, I should say. Yeah.
That is awesome. So we'll have some of the StrappedCorn's replays going on in the background. Um, and as you can see, he has a beautiful, beautiful Onyx Dragon that will shred people up. So to start off with StrappedCorn, the first question that I have is you've been a minister in part of Blood Moon leadership for a long time, and I think that or for as long as I can tell, and I think where this game gets more complex than other games is it's not just two individuals clashing heads. It is a team game. So being able to manage a team and manage it well to accomplish the team goals is everything. And I don't know if everyone at home knows what goes into that type of stuff. So could you share your experience with what it's like to help lead a house? What goes on when nobody is looking that people might not even know about at all?
So one thing I would like to say first is I think a lot of people underestimate how much time people just spend talking, chatting to each other, not even playing the game. They're just chatting once or among each other, especially ministers and lords. And that's a lot of that's just to, try to get diplomacy under wraps kind of, because that's kind of the whole biggest thing about the game. I mean, you're really only fighting every once in a while, but a lot of times it has to do with the diplomacy. And that takes hours upon hours at times to figure out. And I would say, I first started out in a house on my server, server 42, and I was just a normal guy, and I ended up becoming the lord of our house. And then after I became the lord, I kind of became one of the top people in our server. And I was able to get everybody to merge together before the first actual merge of servers existed, which was pretty new at that time because I'm a lower server. So I ended up actually reaching out to Chip, who is another minister on our house, our current house. He was on another server at the time, and we started chatting. And that's kind of how we first started meeting each other. And we ended up joining forces on the merged server. And then when I reached that merged server, I actually met Chan, and she was one of the first people I talked to. So when Chan and I started talking, I gave her my house because I was wanting to join some other people anyways. So that's kind of how me, Chan, and Chip have all met each other. And now we're all obviously Lord and Ministers of the House. So we've been together for probably over 2 years now. So we've gone through a lot of things. So I think that really helps our house because we kind of know what each other is thinking a lot of times. whereas some other houses are maybe newer and they don't necessarily bond as well as we have. That was probably a lot to say, but
That's awesome. So communication is key in developing
yeah,
that trust with everyone.
right. If you don't trust your own ministers and your Lord, then feel like that's where things start to fall apart the fastest in a house.
Gotcha. So it kind of starts at the top and then works its way down. At least as far as the trust and coordination for the most part.
Right. I mean, you have to be able to trust your Lord and you have to trust your own ministers to be able to follow a plan that you guys have in place. And you obviously have to all coordinate a plan and agree with it in order to get it to work.
That's awesome. And what is what's the biggest headache when it comes to being a minister or trying to uh create the plans and execute the plans? What's like your worst nightmare?
Well, it's really disappointing if a plan doesn't work, but I would say that the hardest part is to not get too mad when people either don't like your plans or they disagree with this or that and they want to kind of run the show.
Okay. All right. So to like not take things personally. Like they can disagree with the ideas, but it's not necessarily they disagree
Right,
with you as a person.
right. There's probably some people that end up hating, a certain minister because they did something where it's like a lot of times the ministers and lords are just trying to help the house the best way they can. We all have jobs and other things going on in life too, so we try to help the most we can, but it's hard for us as well.
Gotcha. And for the minister stuff, I have to ask because how can I not ask? From what I see, you tend to get the job or the role of the quote unquote bad guy, the guy that says no to people. Not always, but it just seems like that's in your resume of one of the many things that you do. Do you enjoy that role? Do you really despise it that's what you have to do, or do you see it just as team comes first and you're playing your role for the team?
I'd say a little bit of both. If my enemy hates me, I feel like I'm doing something right. If my house hates me, then it's maybe a different story. But I think a lot of the times I'll say it how it is, and if they don't like it, that's tough.
And that makes a lot of sense. We instead of like being around the bush, just get directly to it.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome. And for your gameplay, which all this is going on in the background, have you always been human, or what races have you bounced around with before?
I've mainly been human. I have been Racken, and I've also been Sliff. I was Sliff for quite a while when it was good. And then Racken, I've kind of been off and on every once in a while because it was pretty good for a while. But in the beginning, I was human, and I've always enjoyed playing human. It just feels most comfortable to me.
I got you. So no no dwarf. It, I feel like there's another race, or maybe I'm just
Lich?
lich. Yeah, no lich.
No, I hate Lich. I hate them so bad. I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure they're fun to play with, but I just can't stand them. And Dwarf, it's just too expensive. If you're a PvPer like I am, who I love to PvP every single day, it just would be too unaffordable.
I could totally see that, especially with like the mech meta right now for dwarf.
Right, right.
But
Yeah, I'd be building nonstop.
I absolutely in all that mithril.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In how do you so for people that don't know, I'll paint a background picture of like my perspective. I see corn going out and not necessarily Oh my God! Sorry, this battle. There's so many black holes. The two Amish dragons. For my perspective of watching StrappedCorn, it just seems like he does not shy away from PvP, even going up against a stronger opponent, and probably because of that, he's able to pull off wins going up against stronger opponents at a much higher rate than like anything I could ever pull off. Um, what's the secret to perform well against stronger players?
I think it is the main part of it is you have to trust yourself in what kind of spells you're casting and when you're casting them. And if you start following what other people are doing, I feel like that's when you're going to fall off of what your own self is comfortable with. And that's kind of where you end up not doing as well. A lot of times I've tried to copy, some of the best players in our house, the strongest ones. And then I end up realizing I'm doing worse because I'm doing something I'm either not comfortable with or that their core is so much higher than mine that it just really isn't the same type of gameplay as my level. So I try to stick with what I do well, and then I kind of have a game plan for each race that I go against, and I know what kind of spell I'm going to cast and when and where before the match even starts. And I think that helps a lot.
I gotcha. So playing to your own strengths rather than just copying whatever the trend of the week is.
Right. For example, even today, Kurd and Toby fought each other, and I asked them for their PvP setups because I wanted to try it. Well, I tried it, I started doing worse. So I went back to mine, which then I started doing good again. So a lot of times I feel like you need to go with what you are comfortable with and the dragon that you feel comfortable with, and that's where you're going to do the best overall.
Gotcha. In do you do you feel more comfortable with a like a particular formation over time? Like do you create a formation, do it a couple times, and you're like, I feel comfortable, or does it take some time in testing with that formation to like really feel comfortable with it?
I think it takes time. I would say you need to do at least 20 matches and with a formation before you really know if you like it or not. And during that time, you're going to end up switching up heroes a lot of times to areas that you feel like the hero should be this spot or that spot, depending on how you play. And I think where you put your heroes really depends on your play style because you'll see other people playing and they do well, but they have their heroes totally different areas than you do. So a lot of it depends on your own personal play style.
Okay, gotcha. And that makes total sense. When what do you think gives you what's your strength? If everyone's playing to their strengths and trying to capitalize on whatever advantage that they can, what gives you your edge compared to other opponents of the same level or slightly like stronger that you're able to actually compete against?
I think just playing for so long, I've been playing for almost 3 years now, off and on. And I would say that the knowledge of the game, I just know more than some of the more beginners. And then obviously my research for heroes is higher along with troops than a lot of people. So that helps, but just knowing what to do. I mean, like I said, I kind of have a game plan for each race, and each race I game plan differently for. So if you kind of have that already in your mind before you even see their formation, then I feel like you're going to do better than just casting the same abilities for every race and just expecting to win every time.
And that makes a lot of sense. Did you develop do you develop that through like trial and error of actually doing the battles to figure out the timing for the skills and stuff, or do you kind of how do you go through that process? Do you determine it as you're building a formation, or through the experience of doing it over and over through repetition?
I'd say it's more the repetition. I would say I'm probably one of the more bigger PvPers in our house that likes to PvP against opponents on a daily basis, whereas a lot of people kind of wait just for the tower. And I think that helps me a lot because I see different formations and I try different things and I can kind of tell what works and what doesn't. I mean, I could look at somebody's formation and then turn the game away from me, and I'd be able to tell somebody, do this spell, do that spell, do this spell, and I could tell them exactly what location to do it, and we should win if it's somebody close to our core.
So I guess
Just
they're
because
coming to you.
Yeah, it's just the repetition of it, that I have it down so well that I wouldn't even have to really look at the screen in order to do well.
That's amazing. I gotta send you some of my replays so you can go through and tell me what to do so I can start winning more.
Man, you've done way better compared to when you first came. I would say you're kind of a novice, and now you've became a pro. I mean, you know things way more than you used to, and you know things that I don't even know. So from when you first joined us to now, you've made huge progress, and I'm proud of you for that.
Oh, thanks, man, and thanks for having me and always advocating for me. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, man, you've been a great addition to our house.
Let's go, Blood Moon.
Hopefully we win tomorrow.
Yes. So time of recording, this is prior to Clash. So
Yes.
when you guys do see this at home, it Blood Moon will probably be ranked number 1 overall in Clash Fate. They're going to sweep everything. We're doing it for the Lunari. Need the Lunari.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I think I totally agree with Corn. For gathering information and improving, for me at least, I had in my group of players that I was with before, I answered a lot of questions. There was no community chat. There's very limited ways of accessing information. Sure, there's a Discord and it wasn't super active. Legend Rooney was around, so I could get information from that, but there wasn't too many people for me to directly ask questions to, and I just found myself answering a bunch of really basic things. So going to Blood Moon and being surrounded by people like StrappedCorn, Chip, Chan, Toby, etc. Being surrounded by people that are more knowledgeable, you're as long as you're a sponge and you actually read the stuff that matters or ask those questions, even if you're going to sound stupid. Who cares how you sound? Just ask it. I think that goes a long ways into actually take the advice that's given and at least try it out. It might not work for you, but give it a try.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the biggest problem is you get people in your house that might want to ask questions, but they feel like they're too dumb of questions or they're too shy to ask them. And they end up playing, subpar of what their actual ability could be if they just open up and ask the questions they want to.
Absolutely. And that's a big step for anybody to kind of get over. For asking questions just in general. I think people are just so afraid of appearing in a certain way that it almost like circulates back to bite them in the butt.
Right. I agree with you. I'd
So
much rather have somebody in our house that isn't very good, but they ask a lot of questions, because then I know that they're improving. And I would want to keep them in our house a lot more than somebody that's better, but they never ask any questions.
absolutely. Who are the like the people that you look up to, you try and gather information from, or that you go to with your questions?
A lot of times I'll either talk to Chip or otherwise I'll look at Kurd's formations and things like that because he kind of plays a similar style as me. I think Toby's a really good player as well, but his play style is kind of the opposite of mine. So I try not to look at his replays too much because then I feel like I just end up going backwards. If that makes sense.
I do. So, because they're both kind of, to me, they're both super aggressive, but I guess I'm more passive and defensive with some stuff. Is One of the big things that stands out with Kurt is his Avalon will always run like into the melee range. Um,
Yes, their formations do not work for me because of that main reason. That they
Gotcha.
put their Avalon too far ahead for me, at least. But it works for them, so, you know. I would say I actually watch enemy formations more than anyone from our house. Just because if I end up losing to somebody multiple times, then I look at their formation and see why that's happening and how I can improve on it. Because obviously they're doing something that I should be doing.
That's wicked smart. When you look at a replay and kind of review a battle, say for somebody that you're fighting in dual tower consistently comes up and struggling with, um, do you do like a full review of the fight from where they position everything down to their gears as well, or do you look more at the actual formation?
I usually look at more formation, and then, well, now I also look at dragon because if they have a lot bigger dragon than I do, then I kind of brush it off as that sometimes. But I usually look at their formation and then when they're casting spells, because I think when you cast a spell is almost bigger than having a better dragon.
Interesting, interesting. In how do you like compensate for the dragon difference? Is there anything that you do to um, either nullify some of the effects from enemy dragons that might have some more dragonic power, or do you just tag them, or how do you deal with the dragons in general?
I would say it really depends on the dragon. If it's a noble blood dragon, then I'll want to tag it probably the second time or the second spell if I possibly can. If it's a attack dragon like Onyx, then I'll usually leave it be because I feel like a lot of times I can break or I can take my strong side and break whatever side that's fighting faster than that Onyx can really hurt me. Because I feel like the first spells that the Onyx casts are the strongest. So if I can get past those, then I'm good. If I'm fighting a Topaz dragon, I'll usually try to target that first or second because they're really dangerous against your heroes. If I'm fighting a green dragon, I leave it be because I feel like I can break it just like the Onyx dragon. If I'm fighting a red dragon, I feel like I already won before it started.
Oh my god, the poor ruby dragons. Someday,
Yes.
someday they'll be the most powerful.
Yeah,
Someday.
someday.
When somebody
They
figures
have
out,
potential.
are you going to be the guy that makes ruby dragons the new meta?
I've hatched a couple good ones and I've debated it, but I see nobody else using them, so I feel like that's just a sign.
That is awesome. Well, Mr. Strapcorn, thank you for bringing bringing Blood Moon up into first place for Clash of Fate in totally winning the 2020 Clash of Fate championship. How do you design the Clash list and come up with a Clash plan? And for people at home that don't know this, because this is coming out of left field, for Blood Moon, Strapcorn is actually the brains behind the strategy of everything. So if we win, he gets all the credit, and if he loses, it's because nobody tried hard enough.
Exactly. That sounds like a good idea. Um, so we actually go by the tower scores, which I think is a great idea because people end up PvPing more than maybe they normally would, which that gives them extra experience. But then you also get, towards our 20 to 30, our kind of sub range. those people end up switching around a lot then too because they're all so close to each other. So then it's not the same 30 people that are always going into your clash. And I feel like it then nobody can say, well, why didn't I get on the team? You know, if we have a set rule of the top 30 people in our tower get on it, then nobody can say anything about it.
That's pretty smart, and it seems like it also incentivizes people to either improve in PvP or spend money. I have no idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you honestly need to do both in this game, sadly, but it's the truth.
And
But I think that that really helps out the team overall is to have it competitive, a friendly competition between the top, 30 to 40 people in our house.
absolutely, and that's huge. So just to recap that, if people do move down to join Blood Moon, you have to do dual towers to get into the Clash of Fate team.
Yes. Yep.
Very cool stuff.
And
So, oh, what is it?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say thank you to you and see what else what else you had before we let you go on this beautiful snowy evening.
No, that should be it. Thank you for hosting me.
And anytime. So this is StrappedCorn Minster with Blood Moon. Somebody that plays definitely above their core power. In my humble opinion, I think that there's plenty of people out there to support that. Um, and also a really good ally, and more importantly, a good friend who's always been looking out for me, which I appreciate immensely. So thank you to Mr. Shopcorn for joining us, giving us some insight on what it's like to actually lead a successful house, how to work on Clash, PvP formations, and different ideas to maybe approach the game differently to progress forwards.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, and with that, guys, please take a moment to like, share, subscribe. There are cool things in the description of the video and all videos. There is a merch store in which my mom is the number one purchaser of all of the gears. I butchered that word. But there you can find hoodies, phone cases, coffee mugs, fleece blankets, pillows, literally you name it, it is there. Except for hats. I don't know why they don't do hats there. I want a hat. So if anybody out there does want to make an OGC hat and send it to me, feel free to. I will gladly wear it in every single video. There is the OGC community Discord. Feel free to check that out. I'd add that. It's essentially Blood Moon OGC community hybrid mix. Really good people there that will help you out, and so much archived information there, along with Discord things that will just pull up void levels and explain how to beat it through videos. And finally, we have Patreon. So all of this is brought to you through the Patreons with the OGC community. So thank you to all of the Patreons, and thank you for StrappedCorn for coming out and sharing some insight. We will have more videos coming up soon. Take care, guys.